Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. With us on our final preview show before we kick off another season is senior editor John Borton from the Wolverine magazine. I'm getting the show published a few days ahead of schedule this week because of the big NCAA news from Friday. By now, we have all heard and read what the penalties are for Signgate, and I'm also sure we'll be hearing about it for a long time to come. Michigan fans are pleased, for the most part. Those in Columbus, East Lansing, and others like them that wanted the hammer to drop are deeply disappointed. If you peruse the internet, you know what I mean. A large cloud has been lifted from the program, and while it isn't over with, we can now fully turn our attention to Team 146 and enjoy the season without that hanging over our heads. At his most recent presser, Sharon Moore talked about how it's going for his team and how happy he's been with them in camp.
Good, I love this team. I love the passion, I love the energy, I love the togetherness, that we're going to be a really physical football team. I love our coaches, love our staff. I learned that we're going to be explosive on both sides of the ball, and it's going to come from different positions at different times. I learned that they like to have fun together. You know, those are the things I really learned about our team, and there's different intricate details of, you know, the scheme and position battles and all that, but overall for me, when I looked at it, I expressed to the team how much I love them, how much I thought how good I think this football team can be and where we can climb to.
Sharon had a big smile on his face while discussing the offensive line.
Big shout out to Grant Newsome and what he's done with that group, and Coach Gilbert, and Marukian, and Coach Castillo. They've invested a lot of time in that group to be really good. They know the vision, they know what I want in that O-line, and they know how we should run it as an offensive line, and they've imprinted that in that group, and they've become closer. This offseason, they worked really, really hard, and they're pushing that D-line now. There's days that the O-line wins, you know, and that's what you want. You want that good back and forth, so that whole group has been great.
My guest today says the Michigan haters will continue to hate and claim we cheated during the Stallion years. But the NCAA came up with no proof of that, so for now, the case is closed. We recorded this segment on Friday, and wouldn't you know it, 5 minutes after John and I were finished, it was announced Michigan was appealing the NCAA monetary penalties. We'll have plenty of time in the future to discuss that, as the appeal will linger into the next year, no question about that. Instead, we discussed the NCAA Signgate verdict and moved on to get John's thoughts on Team 146. Up next is longtime friend of the show, senior editor John Borton from the Wolverine magazine. So stay with us. Joining us today to talk about, you guessed it, the NCAA investigation being concluded, but also some talk about the upcoming season, is senior editor John Borton from the Wolverine magazine. Great to have you back, John.
Great to be with you, Mike, and it's that time of year where it's fun to be talking about football, and certainly the NCAA ruling allows us to talk a lot more about football without the that cloud hanging over anymore.
I think everyone will agree it's good to get that out of the way. Of course, the decision coming down on Friday. Anything there you didn't expect to see, John?
No, not really. I mean, it's very much in line with what we've at the Wolverine.com been calling for really months. We expected the suspension, part of which Michigan had already self-imposed. We expected a hefty fine. And, you know, the biggest thing that was expected to not happen was, you know, no vacated games, nothing touches the championship, no postseason bans, any of that stuff. So basically, yes, you take a little hit, and there's some recruiting and restrictions in the coming weeks and months, but for the most part, it's done. you take the hit and you move on. You play football.
For a lot of Michigan fans, even this punishment, and I've been hearing it all morning, was too much. But for a lot of others who, let's classify them as the haters or people outside of the program, it wasn't enough. And, I'm afraid after reading the decision and listening to what various analysts are saying, no one is going to be happy, are they?
No one completely. Certainly not anyone in Columbus or East Lansing.
No.
Because they were expecting, the craziest of them were predicting something along the lines of the death penalty and, all of anyone associated with Michigan football getting their fingernails pulled out by pliers. It was never realistic. Here's the day. We heard for months, the hammer is going to fall. The hammer's coming. Well, the hammer here gave you a little gentle tap on the wrist, and in the big picture, in my mind, because we knew about the fact that the NCAA was not going to come out of this without exacting something, and they certainly offered to show cause rulings for Jim Harbaugh, for Connor Stallions. But even there, you look at that and, Jim Harbaugh now can't come back and coach in college, which he wasn't going to do anyway. He's stuck making $20 million a year living in Southern Cal and coaching in the NFL where he wanted to be anyway.
He and Connor, I'm sure they are none too worried about this. They might have a few things to say in the future, and that will be interesting. I guess But what the NCAA was saying, their premise from day one was, the Connor scheme might have been actually used by the coaches and the team to gain an advantage. And in the end, it doesn't say that in the document. If it does, it's veiled. But that is, I think, the only thing that the haters, and again, you mentioned Columbus and East Lansing, that's really what they wanted to see, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They wanted, this heinous cheating exposed and thank goodness that Connor Stallions is out of football now, because now no one will ever again steal signs. Which we know is not true. What the thing about it is, we know that Ohio State had Michigan signs in 2018 and 2019. Look at the results there. Connor Stallions, did he take it to the next step? Did he hire some folks to advance scout? Yes, he did. And if you think nobody else does that, then you're showing how naive you are with regard to football and the machinations thereof. It's just one of those deals where, yes, the people that hate Michigan wanted to see just this death penalty type of situation. And it was never realistic. It was never going to be. You had the president of the NCAA saying over a year ago that Michigan won the championship fair and square. There's no doubt about that. And so all those that wanted to see some kind of a raid on Schembechler Hall to pull away the championship trophy, they're just going to have to be disappointed.
Yes, they are. And so in a way, the Signgate saga is over, or maybe it's not. I know a lot of people are going to want to know who got this entire investigation started. Where did that come from? We've heard all along there are several people that might have whispered in the NCAA's ear. That's a story that might follow in the coming weeks and months. And then, of course, as I mentioned a minute ago, you've got Jim Harbaugh, Connor Stallions, who I'm sure will try to defend themselves either in the court of public opinion or, who knows, maybe in the civil courts.
Maybe, yeah. Those are the other shoes to drop, and I'll be there for it. Certainly. I find Connor Stallions a very interesting guy, an interesting listen anytime that you hear from him. And Jim Harbaugh, I wouldn't expect him to hold anything back at this point.
No.
Now on the NCAA, there's no question in my mind that the NCAA wanted him out. He was a threat to their business. He was an advocate of the payers getting a bigger share of the pie, and they certainly have gotten that. And when you talk about the source of all of this with the NCAA, yeah, I've heard some very interesting things myself. I wonder to the degree to which Michigan will pursue that and get some things out in the public. But if they do, I would say it might open a few eyes.
Well, we will see in the coming weeks and months. It's a story that has legs, I'm afraid, as we say in the business, so we'll stay tuned. But let's, for now, for a couple of minutes, switch gears to a much happier topic, and that's the coming season, which isn't that far away. And I think at this point we're all accepting and expecting that Bryce Underwood's going to be under center in the opener against New Mexico. It is a big part of the reason for high expectations surrounding this team. And we know he's had his wow moments in practice, some not so wow. And that's probably going to continue into the season with a freshman, isn't it, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just part of being a freshman quarterback. And the degree to which Michigan can cover for his mistakes and the degree to which he can learn and grow throughout the season. I mean, the beauty of it is by the time you get to Michigan, Ohio State, nobody's a rookie quarterback anymore, and Bryce Underwood will not be. But in the meantime, you got some big games. You got Oklahoma at Oklahoma early, and you've got to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and out to USC. And we're going to see how big a step forward this offense can take from a year ago when it was just not adequate, not effective, not even marginal in the way it could score or throw the football down the field. You're talking about a 5-loss season that could have been a 10-2 regular season had you had even a little bit of ability to throw the football effectively, which you did not. And I think that's going to change this year. Not only do you have a new offensive coordinator in Chip Lindsey, he's got a lot more to work with, talent-wise, with Bryce Underwood, with backups that they've brought in that are more experienced, have been on the field. You've got a pair of really good running backs. You've bolstered your receiving core. Question becomes, can that offensive line take a big step forward? That's to me, that's going to determine the offense and really the season. Because if this offensive line can get better, then all of a sudden you've got a running game that takes the heat off the quarterback, and you've got the kind of protection that gives him a chance to see the field and hit some of these receivers. So, I spent a fair amount of time the last few days with a former Michigan offensive lineman, Doug Skeen, that knows what it takes to get it done in the Big Ten, 5-time Big Ten champion, 5 rings. And you ask him, and he says it's no different now than it is then. The offensive line's got to make it happen.
Oh, yeah, that will never change. And I have every confidence Chip Lindsey, having been around as an offensive coordinator for a long time, will have an offensive game plan that's going to bring Bryce along. But the main contributor to his success will have to be that offensive line. No question about it. So coming to Mexico, everyone's interested in seeing Bryce Underwood, but the group I'm going to be focused in on is that offensive line because, as you said, if they are better this year, that, as we know from watching football for a long time, can cover a multitude of sins with any offense and also be a young quarterback's best friend, can't it, John?
No question about it. And I think this line has got the experience, got the basic skill to get it done. What I'm going to be looking for is a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a mean streak that to this point we really haven't seen that much out of this line. And as I told Doug Skeen, and he agreed with me on this, I said one penalty I would not mind seeing in the first game. You don't like to see a whole lot of penalties, but if you saw an offensive line penalty for a little excessive aggression, say in burying one of these defenders, or else you get a little too close to my quarterback and you get a two-hander that gets you a flag, I could live with that because there's no doubt. You just go back to 2021 when the Ohio State defensive back rips the helmet off of Roman Wilson, and all of a sudden you've got a line of these behemoths walking him down and saying that's not happening. There's a mean streak that an offensive line can have, and Mr. Skeen always likes to refer to an offensive line that is tough enough to render defenders with tears in their eyes. That's what you need out of this group.
Amen. We need some nasty. That's what I'll be watching on the New Mexico game too. Over on the other side of the ball, though, John, I'm trying hard to find areas to be concerned with. And, you know, people do talk about the secondary, but even looking at the personnel that we're going to be putting out there, I'm not so concerned about that either. But if as a unit they are as good as we think they are, you know, that alone is another thing to keep in mind while we're watching this young offense develop. That defense alone could keep Michigan in a lot of games this year and win a lot of games alone.
Oh, there's no question about it. And the initial thought from some people is, oh, my word, you don't have Mason Graham and Mr. Grant there up front that are early NFL first-round draft picks and all that. I'll tell you what, they've got the depth they've got up there. I talked to Rayshon Benny after the spring game, and he's one of the stalwarts up there. He said the depth on this group he likens to 2023 in Michigan's ability to roll guys out there 10 deep on that four-man front. They are very, very talented, very, very skilled. You've got great linebacking, very experienced, led by Ernest Hausman and Jayshon Barham. What you have is a menacing front seven. I think that's going to be not only one of the best in the country, but the type of they'll exert themselves to the extent that you're going to buy some time for that secondary to grow up. And we hear indications in some ways that it's already growing up. Good reports of Jair Hill taking a step forward at one of those cornerbacks. And, you know, we've seen some of those other guys back there that were solid last year, younger guys coming on. Rod Moore remains a question mark. You know, it'd be fantastic to see him at safety like he was a couple of years ago. You don't necessarily have that yet from everything that I hear, but I still think the dominance of the front is going to buy time for those guys in the secondary.
I don't think there's any question about that. Another area that I wanted to get your input on, one that just doesn't get discussed as much in the preseason, but it impacts us every week, is the kicking game. Probably because Dominic Zavada is back, but punting will be either Hudson Hollenbeck or transfer Hunter Robertson. Any concerns, especially in the punting piece of the game, John?
Well, I think that's the bigger unknown. I would expect that Hudson Hollenbeck will be able to do an adequate job, at least for that. That's the bottom line. That's the baseline. You want to be up from there. But we will see what they come up with in the punting game. Chip Lindsey would like to run the sort of offense that wouldn't have to require you to punt a whole lot. But as we know that as you go through the season, you are going to have to punt the football. And the other part of it is I had a really good sit down with Dominic Zavada just the other day and doing a profile of him in the preview preseason magazine for football for the Wolverine. That's coming out here in a week or so. But this is a kid that really got a taste of Big Ten competition, high-level college competition, and had unbelievable success, 7 field goals that were 50 yards or more that he made, automatically making him the career leader for Michigan. And it was one of those situations where he had a great individual season, but he wanted more, and that's why he came back. He wants more team success, and he's convinced that Michigan is going to have that.
And I'm glad he's back. I hear a lot of the media saying, though, John, this is a manageable, very manageable schedule, especially as compared to last year. Maybe so, but there are 6 road games this year, sort of a funky schedule, and it's at home one week, on the road the next week, and it keeps going like that. But some of those road games, East Lansing, we know all about that place. Then out in L.A. against USC, Washington is at home, It makes me think it is a rugged schedule. But we all know you have to bring it every Saturday. There are no gimmies on this schedule, are there?
No, not really, especially until you prove that you have that defense that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Until you prove that your offense is going to be able to move the ball in tough situations. This is not a schedule where you have those check the boxes 3 wins in the non-conference, write the check and clean up on somebody at home. You've got that big one in Norman, week 2 of the season against Oklahoma, and I'm telling you that's going to be a real challenge with Oklahoma's defense coming after probably Bryce Underwood, and then we get to see how this young man reacts in that situation, how all those around him react. I expect it to be a very tough game out at USC because we've seen the statistics on what happens when you cross more than 2 time zones or 2 time zones to play an away game in the Big Ten, and it's not good for the travelers. So those 2 games I really am looking out for the most as to be the biggest challenges. It's when you go to Nebraska, that's going to be tough as well, and of course you got the Buckeyes there at the end. I do find that there'll be plenty of challenge in the schedule, but it's not one that when I picked this, I predicted a 10-2 regular season, and some people think that's on the optimistic side, but I think it's doable if some of these things that we're talking about, the development of the quarterback and the step forward by the offensive line and the defense being all that we expect it to be, come through.
Yeah, I think we've reached the point where I like to call this speculation mode all of August, where week after week we talk about, well, if this develops, if the offensive line, the secondary, but we're ready to see it in action against New Mexico State, and we don't have to wait long. So that's
the beautiful thing.
Yeah, it can't come fast enough. So final question before we let you get away, John, and I'm sitting here just to the right of me with my beautiful Wolverine preseason magazine for 2025 with Bryce Underwood on the cover. Check me on this. He's the first true freshman to ever be on the cover, isn't he?
I believe that is accurate. I don't now that you say that, I'm trying to figure out if Chad Henne made the cover as a true freshman. I don't believe he did. So my guess would be that is correct.
It's a great preview. I guess I say this every year. It might be your best preview ever, but I love it for show prep, and I know we still have a couple of weeks before the season. If you're a subscriber, of course, you get the preseason issue, but for those of our listeners who, and I don't know who they could be, but who do not have a copy of the Wolverine magazine 2025 football preview, is it still available? And if so, how can they get it?
I would start with this. Give a call to 800-421-7751, and they will be able to let you know, our parent company, that whether or not there are previews still available, and get those shipped out to you.
All right, and we'll get that in the show notes, because everyone should have a copy of that on their desk or their coffee table for the upcoming season, which, again, is 2 weeks away. And now that we have this entire Signgate NCAA investigation thing over, for the most part, we can focus on Sharon and the boys and the New Mexico game. So, John, it's always great to have you with us and being so gracious with your time, and we look forward to, of course, getting you back as soon as we tee it up for real in the fall.
Beautiful. Thanks for the opportunity, Mike, and we'll talk again soon.
On Quick Hits today, this week we begin the last week of camp. Next week will be game day preparations for the opener with New Mexico. Sharon addressed injuries at his most recent presser and said other than the normal bumps and bruises, the team is in very good health. Let's hope it stays that way. Next week, we get back to our season schedule of 2 shows a week. On Tuesday, our Visitors Edition will always have a writer or play-by-play guest from the opposing team. For the opener, we'll be joined by Sean Reeder, who is the beat writer for the Lobos with the Albuquerque Journal. He is also a Spartan, so that should be interesting. Then on Thursday's Michigan Game Day show, we will hear from the angel of the big house for the first time this year, beat writer Angelique Shengelis from the Detroit News. So make sure you join us as we get ready to kick off another, what we hope, is an exciting season of Michigan football. That does it for now. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!